So, first let me describe how I've spent the last 3 summers. Live in Ohio. Be camp counselor at Innawoods Camp in Hocking Hills region of southern Ohio. Clear Creek Valley is one of the most biodiverse areas in the entire world. Not kidding. More than some rainforests. Nearest civilization is town of Rockbridge, tiny, many miles away. Everyone lives in cabins with no air conditioning, power, or lights. I'm assigned to the older boys, because I'm better with the bushcraft. Teach them battening, fire building, debris huts, edible plants, the works. One night every week, we camp out, use the skills, and sleep under the stars. Every week, each cabin has to do a camp improvement project, chores. Little kids pull weeds on what few, unpaved, barely maintained, paths we have. Big kids, 14 to 17, use saws, rakes, and shovels to clear out new campsites, or refurbish old ones. There's always been a rivalry between the older boys and girls, especially among the counselors. That's the camp. It's a nice place. I'm there for 6 weeks every summer, but the kids only stay for 1-week sessions. After 3 years of romping through the forests there, I know the place like the back of my hand. There's still some places I haven't been, but they are few and far between. As a side note, every counselor has a camp name so campers can't find us on Facebook and stuff. I'm Hawkeye. My friends in the story are Turkey, certified EMT and my co-counselor. Magenta, old friend / engineering student. Khaleesi, Bizina student. Magenta and Khaleesi are counselors for the older girls, Turkey and I are counselors for the older boys. Be last week of camp. Everyone happy to be going home. What camp improvement projects don't get done have to be done by counselors after camp is done, but before they can leave. Fuck that. Turkey, Magenta, Khaleesi and I all agree to have our kids do all of the hard chores so we don't have to do them alone. We clean up a campsite on the side of a hill called Black Feather. The girls clean up a site called Human Nature. They're bragging because it hasn't been used in around 20 years, camp is 90+ years old, and we will finally get it up and going again. I'm a bit jealous because I've never been to that site. The only clue as to where it is a dotted line on a 30-year-old hand-drawn map indicating a shitty trail. Magenta says she knows where it is. I think she's bluffing, but she's a smart girl. I figure if anyone could find it, it'd be her. Next day. Head to Black Feather. Find box tortoise and explain tortoise vs. turtle. A tree has fallen right in the campsite. Go gadget saw-y. 15 teenage boys attack the fallen tree, 1 foot diameter, with hacksaws. That bitch didn't know what hit it? Show them how to split wood. Black Feather will have firewood for many years. Return to camp. Now it's time to select overnight spots. Magenta has a smug grin on her face, looks me in the eye, and says we're going to Human Nature. What do you think about that? Never been there. Where is it? It's in the valley, a new part of the forest. We found where the fire ring was, but all the rocks were strewn about. That's weird. Nah. Walks away. Turkey comes up to me and says that he let a younger cabin take Black Feather, as it's not too far a hike for them. Where are we staying? Tatanka. I was very excited because there is a very cool clearing right by Tatanka, perfect for astronomy. It's right on top of a hill, so it's a tough hike, but that makes the food taste so much better. Next day, overnight day. 15 boys plus 2 counselors. We made hamburgers on a grate that we carried up. 7 pounds of meat to divide. We ate like kings. Campfire jacks for dessert. Basically tinfoil wrapped tortilla with chocolate and marshmallow inside. Uh-oh. Person who packed the food gave us no tortillas. I'm fine with going without, but some of the guys were looking forward to them. Don't worry guys, I'll just pop over to another campsite and see if they have extras. Quietly to Turkey. Where are the other campsites? I have heard the girls from downhill all evening, but I don't know where they are. I don't know, man, his first year counseling, but Magenta said human nature was in the valley. Did you see that raggedy ass trail leading downhill when we were headed up? Like 20 m past the last cabin? I did see it, but it didn't look like it had been used recently. You sure that's right? Yeah man, that's where the trail is on the map. It is around the right area, but the map even has written on it not to scale. Some sites may be overgrown. Alright man, that's about right. I go down towards the trail. 9:30 p.m. so it's dark. I've got a whistle, my Mora companion, blade bathed in white ash, so it works on demons, and headlamp. Get to trailhead. It's a bit dark, but not so much that it's oppressive. I head into the trail. About 5 m in, it suddenly turns from undergrowth to grass underfoot. This is odd. All the undergrowth is getting thinner too, but the path is still very defined for something 20 years old. Suddenly no undergrowth. Just trees. Eerie almost brightness. Don't even need my headlamp. It's a new moon, so this is fucking weird. The section of forest I'm in looks very new, thin trees, low ground cover, no bushes or mid-level plants. The feeling I get in it though. It feels old. Like, walking inside a tomb old. I keep walking, more to distract myself from how weird this section of forest is. I realize that I don't hear the girls anymore. They're normally very loud, being teenage girls. Stop. Everything in the world stops around me. Not even insects are chirping. I see fog slowly filling into the valley. It's now bright in there, despite being a new moon. This place is not good. I'm actually getting goosebumps describing it. A stream runs down the center of the valley. Shallow, but still a stream. I don't know why, because every fiber of my being said otherwise, but I continued on the path, crossing the stream. Once I crossed, a wave of the most powerful feeling hit me, one I can't even articulate to people. The best way I can describe it is like feeling with every oz of your body that something is the most despicable evil that has ever existed. This place was bigger than me, bigger than the forest. I should not be there. I was more scared than anything. Since there was nothing to fight, I ran further down the path. I don't know why the fuck I did it. Every step carried me further into it, but I couldn't stop. It felt like I had run at least a mile or two, but it was probably no more than a few hundred meters. I am not afraid of admitting that I was almost in tears at this point. It's so much easier when there's something to focus your fear on. But when there's nothing, it just takes over. Suddenly. Offside of increasingly dispersing path. Glow of campfire. Sound of girls talking in low voices. Stumble towards campsite. Magenta's voice, much shakier than normal. Hello. Who's there? I try to be as calm as possible, to avoid spooking the campers, although I realize that they are already unsettled as it is. Hey Magenta. It's Hawkeye. I'm coming out of the bush. Oh. Good. What do you need? I'd totally forgotten what I was there for. Just popping by. Cool, she says, then gestures me to come over to her, away from the campers. Hawkeye, what the fuck are you doing? Was that you? Where did you come from? Why are you here? I was getting something. Wait, was what me? What do you mean where did I come from? You took that path, right? She looked me in the eye and for a second, I see the same look that must have been on my face minutes earlier, when I realized what I was feeling. She shook her head just slightly, and I could feel the color drain from my face. This was a bad idea, Hawkeye. What are you going to do? She told me how it felt much safer at the campsite, with the fire going. She certainly wasn't going to lead them out through the forest in the dark. Khaleesi was also new, and didn't know how to get anywhere, so it was up to Magenta. She said she'd stay up all night and tend the fire. Keep the flames hot and large. I looked her in the eye and asked her if she'd be okay. She said yes, but didn't sound convinced. I remembered why I was there, and grabbed some extra tortillas, because damn it, I'm not going to go home empty-handed. Magenta shows me the path they took. Old, but completely different from my ingress route. I make it back on the other path. I feel it as I leave the campsite, but it fades as I walk away. Make it to a big, well-maintained path. Holy crap, this is the same one the other path let out on. Walk back towards camp. Pass where it should have been. What? It's not there. It's like the path closed up. Some of the thickest forest I've ever encountered where that damn path should have been. I know that's where it was because there was a large boulder opposite of it. Anyways. Make it back to Tatanka where my boys have been waiting for me. Turkey yells to me as I walk up. Hey Hawkeye. Where have you been? Did you walk all the way back to the kitchen? Ha ha ha. I realize it's like an hour and a half later. Yeah. The girls didn't have any. Come up, let the older boys take over teaching the younger ones how to make campfire. Jax pulled Turkey aside. The girls had tortillas. What? Don't ever go to human nature. There's something else in that forest. What do you mean? I have him look me in the eye. He sees that I'm not joking. Turkey. It is not a good area of forest. Never go there. Okay man, I won't. We go to bed, but I can't sleep in my hammock. I kept having dreams about the forest. The next day. Wake up. Have campers rekindle fire, since it burned down. Pancakes on griddle we hauled up. Clean up site. Pack. Head back to camp. Get equipment put away, send campers with Turkey to get showers and stuff. Magenta pulls me aside outside the dining hall, but away from campers. She has bags under her eyes, obviously from lack of sleep. Hawkeye, did you sleep last night? Not well, I kept having dreams. About the forest? Why yet? Hawkeye, if I tell you something, do you promise you'll believe me? You felt it, you know what it was like. Sure Magenta, go ahead. Every girl either talked in their sleep last night, or woke up crying at some point in the night. We didn't eat breakfast, we just got out of there. Every girl. Every damn girl. I swear to you. I heard them, I didn't sleep a second. I was tending the fire. I don't know what would have happened if it would have gone out. Okay Magenta, it's okay. I believe you. That's about it? Go home 4 days later. I don't know what the hell it was. But that's it? Sorry for the long post time, I'll compile it into one big image and post it next time. Dude, I know that feeling. Went through an old brickworks near my house. Rumor has it that some kid got stabbed in the tunnels, and as soon as you step into it you have that feeling of instant dread. You feel as if your body is being gently squeezed on the master map, which is a hand-painted, contour lines and everything, map on a wooden board, which all the other maps are based upon, there is a red smudge between the path to human nature and the last cabin, right where my path would be. I shit you not. I think someone had a double meaning when they named the campsite human nature. Whenever I think of human nature as a concept, I think of conflict, war, hatred, and violence. The first person to found the campsite gets to name it, but nobody I've asked knows who founded human nature. It's just always been there. I'll never go back. Camp is a wonderful place that has a special meaning to me, but human nature is something else entirely. Exactly. Trying to articulate it to someone who hasn't felt it is impossible. You need to feel the fear inherent to the place. It's everywhere. I can't ever go back. Magenta won't even talk about it. She yells at me whenever I bring it up. We've been close friends for years, but she won't talk about this.
Bampan with some OC. Maybe not spooky, but scary when it happened. Still a little jumpy with noises. Background: have an alcoholic mother with bad choice in boyfriend material. Part 1. I'd been living in the forest near my house for about 3 weeks alone. Sleeping in trees, dumpster diving for food, going to the YMCA to shower and do laundry somewhat regularly. I spent most of my time developing skills to not die. Black bears and stuff in the region. I had my trusty bow for this whole thing, no funds yet. One night while I'm trying to find a comfy tree to sleep in, I hear dogs barking. Figure it's just some redneck stupid dogs over at the farm on the edge of the woods. Rustling in the distance, more barking. A lot closer this time. Decide to get into a tree. As soon as I get around 6 feet off the ground, dogs burst into the clearing I was walking in. Dogs were definitely not owned by anybody. Haggard looking, no collars. Feral dogs. I keep climbing up to get more out of reach for the things because 6 feet felt a little low to the ground. Dogs notice me and start running around the tree barking and jumping. One big fucking dog can jump a little higher than the low branch I was on. Definitely glad I moved up. 6 dogs, German Shepherd, 2 Golden Retrievers, a mutt, smallish bulldog, big-ass Rottweiler. I begin throwing sticks at the dogs to scare him off. Smaller dogs move away from the bottom of the tree. Shepherd and Rott could be no less concerned with the sticks. Consider shooting the dogs with the bow. Figure I shouldn't because the corpse could attract bears and I don't want to dig a hole or deal with more bears. The dogs eventually fuck off, and I wait another hour before climbing out of the tree. Nearly dark, so I find a tree with wide branches and post up as high as I could get. Tie myself in for the night, drift to sleep holding my bow at the ready in case of bears. Part 2. Climb down out of the tree when the sun rises and visibility is up again. Luckily no fog this morning, so nothing to worry about on the ground. Walk about 4 miles through the woods toward the river that runs through it. I follow the river to town because no roads border it and there are convenient paths along it. On my way to town I see paw prints from those dogs right along the river. I stop and listen for anything that sounds ominous. Continuing on my merry way because nothing seemed out of the ordinary, I get close to town and stash my bow to avoid getting harassed by cops. Cue washing clothes, dumpster diving for supplies, shower afterward and going back for the forest. Get close to where I stashed my bow. Paw prints everywhere. The little fucks are following me. Grab my bow and climb a nearby tree for a vantage point. See the dogs on the other side of a little stream that runs into the river. Determine path to get around the buggers and take it. Walk back to the middle of the forest, where I try to stay to avoid contact, arrest, as quietly as possible. Don't hear the dogs at all, standard woodland noises like squirrels and bugs and birds. Immediately upon getting to the area I stay, smell wet dog and hear twigs snap in the underbrush. Climb the closest tree like I was getting paid for it. 3 of the dogs react as soon as I make a move and burst out of bushes at me. I made it into the tree in time to not get killed, which is good. Dogs circling tree. I decide that I'm not dealing with this the rest of the time I'm out here, however long that may be. Launch an arrow down at one of the bastards and it hits it in the neck right behind the skull. Dead on impact and falls to the ground without a sound. No more mutt. Other dogs run over to it and drag it off into the woods. I hear them crunching bones and ripping flesh. They took my arrow. I'm down to 4 until they leave the corpse. Part 3. I don't have enough arrows to kill the rest of the dogs, and if I miss or only wound him, then I can expect to be in this tree all day. Dogs leave the corpse after 3 hours of ripping into it. I can only hope a bear didn't wander up and scare him off. Might not be able to kill a bear before it kills me if I go to ground. I stay in the tree for a few more hours. It's getting dark again. Dark in the forest is what horror movie directors are dreaming of when they make a scene in the dark. I tactically out of the tree and wait a few minutes before moving away from the base to be sure that nothing is going to pop out at me. Wander over to the corpse of the dog. I retrieve my arrow and dip out of the area. Make it about a half mile before I realize it's getting too dark to stay on the ground. Walk to the nearest visible tree that looks habitable. Hear rustling at the underbrush and immediately pull my bow up to the sound. A ridiculously fat squirrel pops out of the bush. I make a move towards it and it dips out. Consider killing the damn thing for food. Realize cooking it might be hard and dogs would probably just roll up as soon as they smelled it. Climb the tree that looked like a good choice and tie in for the night. Wake up early morning to what I hope is a raccoon fucking around in the sticks around my tree. Look down to see a black bear. Tactically shit my pants and stare at it to make sure it isn't going to climb the tree. I yell to scare the thing off. Looks at me like I'm retarded. Lumbers away. Recover from that and climb down after I can't hear it anymore. This morning is a bit chilly and the dew is ridiculous. Still no fog luckily. I start a small fire to get the cold out of my bones. Barely got it going because of dew. After a bit I douse the fire in loose dirt. Wait for it to die out and leave the area. No dogs yet today. Feeling pretty good. Still uneasy and jumpy though. Part 4. As the day drags on, I start getting more confident that the dogs might be off somewhere else after I killed their pal. Continue my daily routine of wandering around looking at stuff and trying to find places to sleep that look comfy. Suddenly barking. Really close barking. Run to a tree and climb up as fast as possible. Dogs come peeling into the clearing I'm in. They keep barking and circling the tree and jumping. I pull back on my bow and aim for the big dog. Hopefully it'll fuck up the pack. I hit the big dog in the shoulder. He drops for a second then starts ripping at the arrow. Manages to pull it out and keep running around barking. Apparently it hit bone and just sorta stopped. Draw again and aim for a smaller dog so I can actually kill it, hopefully distracting the other dogs. Hit ribs. Dog starts howling in pain and runs out of the clearing. Other dogs start chasing it and run it down quick. Hear pitiful howling from the dog as the others eat it. Retriever down. Hideous bone-crunching noises and flesh-tearing noises accompanied by howling and growling. Wait the dogs out and collect arrows. The first one was bent from the teeth of the Rottweiler. The second one was bent from the struggle. 3 arrows left. 4 dogs left. I start making traps in my free time. Hoping to kill the things more efficiently with less arrow loss. No such luck. 4 days and not one trap has sprung, much less killed anything. Dogs are making forays into my area more at night. I start waking up from little noises. Sometimes the dogs, sometimes not. Even when it was the dogs I couldn't see them. Sleep deprivation seemed like a tactic way over the head of a dog, but these bastards were good at it. Getting sluggish during the day because these fucks wouldn't let me sleep. Reaction time started dropping and they seemed to know. Bastards started to make more runs at me during the day. I'm glad they never really figured out laying in wait. Part 5 almost done. Sleep deprived and too tired to do much else, I started sleeping during the day and just sitting in trees. The dogs wouldn't make attempts to get me in the trees during the day anymore. They'd wait until night or when I was walking. I started getting really jumpy from random noises and I was getting mild hallucinations from the lack of sleep. Bad combo. About a week after I killed the most recent dog, they started coming in during the day while I was in a tree. I noticed some of them had new wounds. I first thought maybe a bear. But I noticed that they were really aggressive with each other now. Constantly trying to bite each other if one so much as bumped into another. I drew my bow again for the big one and hit it square in the chest right under the neck from the front. It made a hideous wheezing noise and started to run around aimlessly. The other dogs started to go for it, but it killed the small bulldog pretty quick and the rest backed off. 3 dogs, another dying. Watching the dogs try to drag the bulldog and fight the rot at the same time was interesting. The rot was starting to hack up foamy blood. As it was about to lay down, the shepherd ran from the side and bowled it over, bending my arrow and killing the rot. The remaining retriever and the shepherd didn't even bother to pull the dogs into the bushes, but started ripping them apart right under me. I think they'd forgotten I was there. I quietly drew back my second to last arrow and caught the retriever behind the ear with it. Dropped immediately and didn't make a noise. I drew back my last arrow and tried to peg the shepherd with it, but he must have heard the last shot and ran away as soon as I was about to shoot. I still loosed the arrow. I thought I missed because he made it into the underbrush, but when I went to retrieve the arrows I saw blood where he ran off to. Part 6 last bit. The next day I walked back to the clearing. The dogs were ripped up and there were some bear tracks. I started to follow the blood trail to find the hopefully dead dog. It led to a stream and I couldn't find the dog or where he went from the stream. I heard growling after I crossed the stream. I couldn't figure out the source, so I climbed up a little bit. It was dying in a clearing just past some rotting logs. I took my last arrow and launched it into the dog's chest to kill it quickly. Clean kill. Could see it stop breathing from where I was. Retrieved my final functional arrow and decided I'd had it with the forest for a while. Went back to my mom's house totally unconcerned with her bullshit.
I got one. Good of story from the south. Family owns land in Tennessee next to a small Civil War burial site. Area of the site is under public deed, anyone could go there. Really worn out. Got swampy as fuck one year. Decided would be a fan-fucking-tastic idea to visit the area sometime around 1800 after a fairly nice wilderness hike/hunting trip. Get to the dark, murky-ass swamp with half-buried rotten wooden grave markers and submerged tombstones. Sit around, taking a break since I had to hike uphill to get here. Suddenly a cute little squirrel comes by and hops right over to a space right in front of one of the graves and starts convulsing. Dies right there. It got a bad feeling. FLV. More animals come out of the woodworks, start creeping over to the graves. Raccoons, more squirrels, possum, a fucking deer. Each one stands over a grave, shakes a little and drops. Pants status shat. Back up against tree, noping harder than ever before. Hear a breezy sound in a brief little burst of noise like a laugh. A cackle almost. Save me ala.png. Hear more distinct sound, bubbles coming out of water. Whip head around to see a pool of water just roiling over. More bubbles start up, ground is shaking now. Ragnarok initiated. Sprint away as fast as I can, heading back to a little gap in the tree line with two huge cacks I have hence called gates to the third circle, to get on path out of there. Person standing there, the dwindling light and tree shade making it too shadowy to see well. Stop and fumble with my rifle, an older How M1500. Shadow stand there unmoving, though the cackling wind comes back and the shadowy person starts to move. Bold moving, round chambered, fire. Shadow stays where it is. Load another shot, fire. Shadow still there. It moves closer and laughs again as well. It sounds like it's over my fucking shoulder. Fuck this nwas. Turn and charge straight for the tree line, only barely making it back to the road. I stand in the middle of the road in the twilight looking around and waiting for something to jump me. Guy comes along in a pickup truck. I was so focused on the forest around me that I didn't notice him come up over a hill. He leans out and shouts. I jumped and noped so hard that a back alley rapist would have respected my wishes. I sling my riff over my shoulder and run over to the guy asking for a ride back to my car. He agrees and we ride along. He asks what I was doing up here looking so scared. Think I almost got possessed. Guy laughs. I get back to my car and never talk about it to anyone but my uncle who owns the land. Uncle says no one even lives within 30 miles of that area, there couldn't have been anyone up there. He looks into it and comes back to me a week later with some weird news. Apparently all the graves had been disturbed and one had even been completely dug up. Don't sleep for 2 weeks believing Confederate zombies are coming to get me. I still keep my Glock 23 under my pillow. Okay, here's a story. B-15. Just got my first personal .22 rifle, all mine, super proud. Little bold thing, super accurate, loved it. Have a family friend who owns property like 10-minute drive from our house. On this property is an old house. Built by homesteaders around 100 years ago, falling apart. Right next to it is a creek in a field. We used to camp on the far side of the field all the time, also would shoot using creek as a berm. One day I decide I want to go camping. Bike out there with my .22, a box of ammo and normal camping kit. Super excited, shoot like 200 rounds at cans and shit from the trash hole nearby. In the 60s someone lived on the property in a trailer and throw trash in this sinkhole type thing. Started getting dark, built a fire and busted out the harmonica to practice. Was terrible at it but it kept my mind busy whilst relaxed. Suddenly something isn't right, I feel like I'm being watched. Hair on neck is raised, heart elevated. My mind starts racing, imagining things unseen out there. Clutching rifle and flashlight scanning the field and trees for movement, shadows playing tricks on my mind and I'm shitting bricks. Moonless night, god damn it I want to go home now. Wish I'd brought a tent at least to hide inside, it was summer in Texas and was too hot but I wanted that security now. Started building fire bigger. Made a torch of sorts with a stick and a Tom-up t-shirt I'd brought along with thoughts of making some sort of camouflage for my rifle. Darkness is giving up no secrets but I can definitely hear something out there walking around. Didn't want to shoot because sometimes cows wander onto the property. Fuck. Inneverwantethys.jpg. Maybe coyotes, they're common out here. But no, not in this particular area, too many farmers and rednecks hunt them, they avoid it. Jesus Christ I think I hear breathing. It's kind of circling me, getting closer. Char limit, 1/2. Pissing pants by this point, wishing I had something big bore. This was before cell phones were inexpensive, I didn't have one. Just told my parents I was going camping and where. Great, so they'll just find my grisly remnants tomorrow morning after I don't come home. Sweating buckets and running out of wood, fire dying. Contemplating running for it but the woodsman in me wouldn't leave the fire, it was too dry out there. Suddenly I hear a deep echoing bark from kind of far off. The thing circling me stops for a second. A long pause and then another hark, closer, and the thing takes off in the direction away from me and the bark. An enormous white fluffy dog comes trotting out of the tree line. Super friendly, has a collar on that says Snowman. Snowman and I chill out for a few hours, only once he turns his head, perks his ears and growls, half barks, and then goes back to normal. Feel totally safe with Snowman there. Eventually fall asleep with the big lug next to me, hot as hell but how gives a fuck. Next morning Snowman is gone, figure he went home after the thing buggered off for good. Go home and scrape the brick dust out of my boxers. Next day. Talking to property owner. Tell him of that night, confirm no cows were out there. Mention Snowman. He looks at me like I'm an asshole. Snowman was my dog, he was killed by a car last year. Wad hard and tell him I was serious, Snowman was real, I petted him and got covered in his white hair and everything and he saved my skin from whatever out there wanted my nutsack for a coin purse. He doesn't believe me until I dig the shirt out of the wash and show him the hair all over it, he says it looks just like Snowman's. Every now and then I hear a bark off in the distance whilst camping there and feel warm inside.
Right/X/ I have a story for you, so sit a while and listen. This takes place 3 summers ago during a boar hunting trip, down in a very rural area of the Ozark South. My main reasoning for sharing this here is that, ultimately, I don't believe in the paranormal. However, I believe I may have run across something that I couldn't explain and I want some input. Fair warning, I'm no good at Greentext. However, I'm not going to assault you with a wall of text. In any case, enough pretense aside. Be back from college and wanting to get out into the woods. Be bored as fuck on a Friday night, and decide to head out super early for boar hunting with a buddy of mine, JD. JD is an Eagle Scout, not prone to being spooked very easily, and I have been hunting in places ranging from deep south swamps to Alaska. We pack our shit up, and leave his place around 12:30 a.m. After stopping for energy drinks and beef jerky, every hunter's best friends, we end up getting out there at around 2:15 a.m. We'd hunted this area for boar many times in the daylight, seen tons of deer, squirrels, and even a baby fawn that fell asleep by the warmth of our car engine once. Basically, a nice place. We pull in off the gravel tract, 40 miles from town and 3 miles from a podunk gas station/deer check station. Decide not to fuck about in the woods at night, we'd had a mountain lion walk in our tracks on a previous hunting trip. Roll down windows and try to take a short nap. Instantly we're hit with this nasty, cloying, sickly sweet odor. I just brush it off going just some wet deer, haha, should mean our scent won't travel far in heavy damp air. JD just looks at me and says that smells like death, bro, like a cow that's been out in the sun too long. I launch into a diatribe about him being a gigantic pussy and how he should deal with it. In any case, since we don't want either to be mucking about in woods home to mountain lions in the dead of night, or be accused of night hunting by some faggot ranger, we decide to go check and see if the podunk gas station is open. Surprise! JD's shitty old 4-banger won't start. Fine, looks like it's a nap followed by hunting while we wait for some toothless mechanic to come jump-start his car. All the while, this smell just seems to be seeping in through the vents, and the cracks in the windows. It gets to the point where I'm actively retching in the car. Enough's enough, and we decide that if something had gone and died we'd prefer not to be stuck in a gigantic tin can right beside the corpse. We get out of the car, parked in the middle of this gravel parking area surrounded by tall grass on the north side, and woods on all the others. A swamp was to our direct west, full of boar, deer, and critters. As I'm sitting there loading up the magazine to my rifle, JD just keeps scanning the tree line with his eyes. To the Europoers and Northerners, hunting in swamps is close quarters. We hunt boar with semi-automatic rifles in the south. You want a quick follow-up shot in case the 400-pound ball of muscle with 8-inch tusks decides to charge you from 25 to 30 yards out. Something's got his hackles all up, but I'm feeling fine, so I just dismiss it as faggotry. Anyway, suited up, we make our way down to the small footpath, 1 to 2 feet wide, that winds its way down into the swamp. However, reaching the treeline, we just both stopped, staring into the woods for a few minutes before either of us spoke. It was almost like shining a flashlight down a mineshaft, where the darkness sort of dissipated the light. I could feel my skin crawl, and something deep in the hindmost parts of my mind told me just to walk right back to the center of the clearing and wait for light. Nope. So, we do what any caveman would have done in that situation. We grunted out a few excuses to preserve our manhood, and went and sat the fuck down by his car. Like fuck I'm going to bumble through woods with mountain lion, weed growers, and God knows what else at 3:15, by that point, in the goddamn morning. The mood lightened, and the smell had seemed to recede a bit, so we just busied ourselves checking our rifles and talking about girls, politics, and history. We're a weird bunch. After a while the smell started coming back, and we began to voice our concern that something that smelled fucking dead was moving around. As the smell starts growing more and more oppressive, I start hearing branches and twigs break in the undergrowth. Whatever it is, it's moving. I don't like that one bit. At this point, I'm thinking it's a mountain lion that's all covered in gore from a recent kill that's about to go full territorial mode. That wouldn't have been out of the question. But it wasn't. As I strained to hear where it was, I noticed that the snapping didn't come from the pat 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 of a four-legged animal. It resembled the crunch 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 of a novice hunter picking his way through the undergrowth. My first thought was we either had a ranger with a sick sense of humor, a drug grower with a great sense of humor, or worse, a motherfucking serial killer. Either way, weapons were shouldered, bolts closed on loaded chambers, and lights pointed towards where the sound was. Nothing. It's fucking nothing. Just the smell. And slower now, crunch crunch. And it stops. The smell is everywhere now, and whoever it is sitting far enough back in the treeline not to be silhouetted by our lights. Smart asshole. No eye shine either, which ruled out just about any animal other than boar, which make enough noise to be easily noticeable. One again, the caveman brain rears up deep within my psyche and tells me, fire. A fire, you idiot, build a fire. So, what do? JD and I build a fucking fire. Throughout this whole affair, other than a few moments, we'd been mostly quiet. However, the fire gives us comfort. And whatever it is seems to back off into the forest, if only for a while. As the fire burns hot, we start joking again, having a decent time. Convincing ourselves it was only a cougar. However, there's only so much timber in a gravel clearing, and after a while we'd have to venture out of the firelight to keep the fire going. That time came, and as the fire burned down to embers, the smell came back more oppressive than before. And with that smell, come an almost oppressive feeling of fear. Not regular fear, but an intense guttural fear that made your muscles tense, your stomach tum, and your eyes go wide. Every fiber of our being told us to get more wood, to keep the fire high. Only with fire would we survive the night. So we cautiously walked to the closest treeline, barely able to see from the dying light of the fire. We'd been trying to save our flashlights. Was on guard duty, as we figured that my SETME 308 semi-automatic would be a better standoff weapon than Joe's small carbine. I'm tacticaling the fuck out at this point, adrenaline flowing from a profound feeling that something just isn't right. JD leans down into the undergrowth to pick up a stick, reaching into the treeline. He screams and falls backwards, while branches break right in front of him. He gets up, freaking out, dusting himself off. Saying he saw something, staring at him first. Sunken eyes, a thick brow ridge, ashy gray skin. Then, it smiled at him. Not so much as smiled, but curled back its lips in a Cheshire grin. We are at Napakan, one gentleman. I wish, but sadly no. My family's from Northwest Arkansas, but I'm currently living over in Northeast Oklahoma so I can commute to work. I'm going to ignore the next hour of this hopscotch game of the fire dying, the smell growing more intense, him, as we call it now, drawing nearer, building the fire back up, and him retreating back to stay away from the freight. However, it should be noted that this entire time he was circling us, probing our defenses, seeing if it could find a way to get up close without being seen. By the time 5 a.m. rolled around, we'd exhausted almost all of the dry firewood that wasn't within the tree line, except for the tall grass on the northeast side of the road in. We of course, do what we have to do, and slowly pick our way over to the tall grass. By this point I have taped a flashlight to my rifle, and switch it on as we leave the fire to get some dry grass. As JD is filling his hands with tinder, I check my right-hand side, and look down the road. Wish I hadn't. Just as I swing my flashlight over the road, I see him for the first time. It's grayish-black, with either sloughing skin or matted gray fur. I honestly couldn't tell. It crossed the 10-yard-wide track what seemed like instantly. Hunched over, maybe 6.5 to 6 feet tall, moving like a gorilla does. It's over. Something in my head just starts screaming it's over. It knows you've seen it. It's not just being territorial. It's circling like a predator. It is a predator. That feeling hadn't been one of fear, but of impending predation. Somehow, the lower parts of our subconscious had known what was going on long before we did. In any case, we ran back to the fire, popped the dry grass on top and waited for the smell to recede. It didn't. It was close, very close, and this time it wasn't moving. So we pushed out, and got in the trunk of JD's car, and listened as it passed behind the front of his car back into the trees. In a burst of brilliance, I decide that we either make the 3-mile run, through dark countryside to the gas station, and pray the lights are on. Or, we build a fire big enough that one of the farmers or someone driving the main road can see it. We end up deciding that sprinting 3 miles through dark countryside, guns on our backs, could at the worst get us devoured by him or shot by a terrified farmer. So, we do the next best thing. Pull a fucking small tree out of the ground. I'm not talking about a bush, I'm talking a small 8 to 9 foot tree. It's amazing what adrenaline can do for you, so much adrenaline where your facial muscles are drawn tight, and your eyes dilate to being nearly black, Joe's description of my face. In any case, the fire bums bright, very bright, after a while and he retreats further into the woods. This fucking tree burned a long ass time. Eventually, maybe 30 minutes after throwing the tree on the fire, 3 lifted trucks come barreling down the road and fly into the gravel parking area. The first truck had an obscene amount of those off-road lights on the bull bar and roof, which lit up the whole glade like the fucking sun. The smell almost goes away entirely, still there, but almost imperceptible. No one gets out of the first truck. A man wearing a National Guard t-shirt and ACU pants hops out of the second truck with his hand on his hip, concealed pistol. He questions us for about 10 minutes, makes us disarm, clear our chambers, and set our rifles in JD's car. He tells us there's a bum ban, we shouldn't be out here fucking around, etc. etc. We explain our car died when we came out hunting, and made that as a signal fire. He just looks at us strangely at the word hunting. Walks back to truck number 1, comes back, tells us not to come back there unless we have all of our ducks in a row. Truck 3 drives over and a man hops out to jumpstart our car. I shake his hand and thank him profusely, and he gives me a worried, but sympathetic look. He doesn't say much but walks back to his truck and drives away. Truck 2 drives away shortly thereafter. We've got all of our shit packed up, truck 1's window rolls down and a rather fat man in a polo calls me and JD over. There's no boar here, boys. If you're hunting for boar you best be looking further on down the road. At least on the other end of County redacted. Bullshit, tons of bore in there. But I don't say that. I'm not going to mouth off to the hillbilly militia that just saved my life. So I thank him for his advice. JD and I get back in his car, debating whether he had gone away with all the commotion. Just as soon as Fatty McLightbar had pulled out, the smell returned yet again. Nope. We're out. Hop on the gravel road, drive to the highway, drive past a few farms, and make our way towards the western border of County redacted. We notice we're being followed by a small white Honda. Guess who's sitting in the front seats? Fatty McLightbar and hillbilly militiamen. They follow us all the way out of that county, then turn around. So ends my experience. It's hard to get Greentext to express emotion, the exact description of the smell, or the fucking primal fear we felt. I wrote an after-action report of sorts the morning after that hunt, but haven't been able to find it after I moved, hence the Greentext. In any case, I've debated going back with more than 2 people to hunt him, but I'd like to know what exactly I was dealing with. This is of course, not touching the fact that the hillbilly militia patrol seemed to know more than they were letting on. Ideas/X/fills.
I got one, might be long as shit so I'll green text it. B19. Just got engaged. Fiancé likes to stay inside and video games. Convince her to come with me on a camping trip with some mates from work. Load up on liquor, smokes, guns and ammo. Bring a couple 22s for plinking and a few hundred rounds. Some dangerous animals in the AR we're going to, so bring her AR as well. Meet up with Stoner Bro and his sister. Hop into their SUV and pick up the other guy. Other bro is sort of strange and quiet, but a pretty alright dude, if not creepy sometimes. On our way to Stoner Bro's secret spot. Almost there and car runs out of gas. What the fuck, I thought you filled it up before you picked us up. Guess I forgot dude. Well, it isn't too far, we can hike it. Sigh and agree. It was about 11 when we left, got there around 1 p.m, hike took about 2 hours, mostly for piss breaks though. Finally arrive at the clearing, Stoner Bro overjoyed, immediately starts smoking. Start setting up a fire while fiancé sets up the tents and shit. Creepy Bro is listening to his iPod. Stoner Bro's sister awkwardly tries talking to my fiancé and helps her. Crack open some beers, it's around 5 p.m. after we get all settled in. Roast some hot dogs, mallows, make s'mores, good old-fashioned camping. Creepy Bro keeps jerking his head up from his notebook and keeps scribbling shit. Dick around, get a bit fucked up till about 9 or 10 p.m. Finally decide to call it a night, we'll plink the beer bottles and cans in the morning. We all crawl into our tents except for Creepy Bro who stays up doodling his Slenderman or whatever. Going to break these up because the limit. Just a side note, I'm not a writer or anything, so if I wander off into needless details, excuse that. Sleeping when hear a loud yelp. Wake up, tactically shit the sleeping bag and peek head out of the tent. Creepy Bro looks like he pissed himself, ask what's up. He looks at me and says, "Oh, it must have just been a fox or something, sorry for waking you anonymous." Nah problem bro. JPG. A bit irritated but figure he's autistic or something so just sigh and go back to sleep. Wake up about 30 minutes later to the same yelp. Pissed off I storm out of my tent and go to talk to Creepy Bro. Creepy Bro is in his tent sleeping. What? Figure I'm just hearing shit in my half-sleeping state, but look around just in case. Meh, nothing. As I'm just crawling back into my tent hear loud breathing and twigs crack. Completely freeze. No idea why I froze but for some reason I got this instant feeling of utter fear and dread coursing through my entire body. Stand there half in my tent, my ass hanging out the back of it. Fiancé wakes up asks me what I'm doing. Notices I'm visibly freaked out. Slowly reach for her AR and say SHHH. Load it and rack it, tum around and look around outside. Nothing, just a drunk fucktard half naked with an AR. Hear a sudden crackle in the woods, really loud and sudden. Jerk toward the sound and accidentally no into the woods. Everyone jerks awake and yells what the fuck. Apologize, tell them I just saw a deer. Go back to sleep, nothing else except stoner bro pissing on a tree outside and falling over. Morning comes, everyone still pissed at me about last night. Do some plinking, make some chili, everyone forgets about it after a bit and we have fun again. I still feel that dread from last night, so I keep a bit quiet. We hiked around for a bit, took in the breathtaking scenery and just enjoyed life for the whole day, nothing unusual really. Night falls once more. It's a chilly night, so we build a giant roaring fire. Shit's cash, we roll some logs over to sit on and just enjoy some mallows. Creepybro stays out of the circle like usual, and doodles on his notepad. Doodling intensifies. Talking with Stoner Bro and his sis. Talking about work, how we hate our bosses, normal stuff kids do. Fiancé is tired from all the hiking and shit, which is unusual for her because she's fairly fit. She just lays her head on my shoulder while I talk to Stoner Bro when suddenly, creak. Everyone, even Creepybro, jump straight the fuck up. Look around and we all ask what the fuck was tha. Creak. Is that a fucking tree falling? Instantly that fear comes back, but much worse, the dread as well. We all begin to feel sick, think someone spiked our liquor with something. Everyone runs to grab the guns. We get our shit and group up close and watch our flanks. Stoner Bro, fiancé, and Stoner Bro's sister are freaking the shit out. Suddenly, blood-curdling scream from the woods. Then another. And another. Jesus, what the fuck? Everyone starts grabbing whatever's most important to them and we jet. Running down the steep hill we walked up the other day. Stoner Bro's sis trips and hurts her leg or foot or whatever. Suddenly Creepybro runs up to her and I swear to God carries her over his shit and still runs faster than a black man runs from death. Get to truck, hop in. Shit, no gas. Creak and screams in the distance and some close by. Creepybro grabs Stoner's sis and runs way ahead of us like an idiot. Drops his notebook, pick it up on the way. We run for God knows how long or far until the noises stopped following us. Completely out of breath we rest for a bit. Look up after some minutes and see a naked dude standing in the distance. I'll conclude it in next post. Typing this all out by hand, bear with me. Dude is staring at us. Get up and stare at him back, call out, hey dude, you lost? Silence. Fiancé says we need to leave. Why? Says, dude, look at his fucking head. What? Realize his head is a weird triangle shape. Suddenly that yelp. Maximum fear. Webm. Then yelp, yelp, yelp all around us. Tactically shit out an entire Abrams and damn near cause World War II in the woods. We start running again. Stoner Bro's sister is so scared she's limp, running faster than my fiancé who ran track for 6 fucking years. We run for about 20 more minutes when I look back, then just before I turn my head I trip. Slam my head on concrete. It's the fucking highway. We calm down but keep a quick pace down the way we came when we got to a gas station. Finally sat down outside it since it was closed. No one says a word. We all dose off and hitch a ride with an old couple headed our way later that morning. On the way, remember Creepybro's notepad. Go to hand it to him but he's passed out. Decide may as well see what this kid draws. Flip through, dragons, furries and shit, pretty damn good artist though, dates on all his shit. IP to the end and see the date from when we arrived. Look at it, he drew trees falling, the next day, like a legion of these dudes with triangle heads. Mind blocked out seeing the naked dude, but seeing this picture, even the stance was exact, and so was the distance. I get that fear and dread once again, and swear to God, heard that yelp again even though we were miles away at this time. I still have nightmares about this shit and this was years ago. I'll be here for an hour or so if anyone has questions. Okay, get ready for some true shit that few will believe. About a week after my 18th birthday, my mom's boyfriend decided to take me and my brother hunting as a present. Me for my birthday and my brother for finishing about with chemo. Surely Zeus himself would cry at the thought of. Anyways, we get up to the land in northern Wisconsin. There is an abandoned ranch on the property along with a hunting cabin my mom's boyfriend, we will call him Jay, my bro built. Now with reflection it is more appropriate to call a shanty, but I digress. That in it served its purpose. We all have a few beers now because I'm a man now, and we are hunting. J and S both went to bed early, but being the /K/Amando that I am, I stayed up later and drank Dom Palinka, Hungarian schnapps for those who don't know, and went to bed around 1. The next morning I get up, pack up a sea bag full of gear and extra ammo, throw my rifle over my shoulder, ram 700.3006 with magazine conversion, and attempted to head out to my spot. I had studied satellite of the area along with some hand-drawn maps from the ranch house. Anyways, as I'm wandering looking for my position, I stumbled across an old shack in the middle of the woods. Like shit you not, nothing around, no trails or anything, just this shack and where I had been walking in the snow. I pass it off as some outpost for the rancher who kept food in it or some shit. I kept wandering and found my stand. The rest of the day went undisturbed and that night followed suit. Can't. Also sorry about short post. Unsure of text limit. The next few days we hunt and it goes undisturbed. Killed a doe and gutted it and left it hanging on the post outside. Finally I get up a few days before Thanksgiving. I knew we were gonna go to Jay's house that day for Thanksgiving the next day. At this point I've followed the same route to get to my spot and past the shack every day. I went and set up in my stand and it was bitter cold this morning, around -20 F. I sat for about 2 hours before the cold and the wind, especially that damned wind, got to me. I decided I would go back to the hunting shack and warm up by the fire. As I made my way back I started to wonder about the abandoned shack and what it might hold. Honestly, I was hoping for an old gun, being that the ranch house had a few. BTW, the ranch house looked like whoever lived there just kind of vanished. I made my way back and got to the abandoned shack. Curiosity got the best of me and I decided I would go in, but as I did I felt this weird feeling, hard to describe but a mix between pure hatred for everything, sadness, fear, hopelessness, and emptiness all mixed into one big pile of fuck you. It was unnaturally dark in the dimmed shack, but being that I am a huge Metro 2033 fan I brought a headlamp and flicked it on. When I looked down I saw burn marks and something that looked like dried blood. At this point I was trying to rationalize it as deer blood and it was just an old poacher's shack. I looked at the walls and saw pretty much nothing, then I heard a crunch in the snow. Not a human crunch but lighter, not like a deer either. At this point I should mention it's pretty common to get snow mid-November in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Thinking it might be a deer I cracked the shack door and looked out. Suddenly a turkey flew away and I just about shit my pants. I got pissed at the turkey and myself for being a pussy and went back to look for secret holes in the floor or walls that they may have hid stuff. I didn't find any, so I decided to leave. And right as I did I heard the crunching in the snow again. Thinking, I've had it with these motherfucking turkeys on this motherfucking plane, I got my gun up, flicked off the safety and stepped out. What stood in front of me is hard to describe at best. It was about 6 feet tall and looked like hell itself. It stood on 2 legs, but where arms should be there were just these weird claw-like appendages attached to what could be described as broken, mangled arms, like each one had 20 joints in it. Its head was another story altogether. It had this mix between a wolf and a deer for a head. Brown fur and antlers like a deer but a short snout with fangs for a mouth. It just stood there and kind of grinned at me. I froze for a second before remembering I'm a goddamned American and I'm packing 220 grain soft point rounds in my dirty 30. I wiped that thing up as fast as I could and fired with the power of the Hells Angels and Los Banditos. I heard a thwack and the beast stumbled back. I worked that bolt like a stripper to a pole at a bachelor's. But before I could get on target the thing took a swipe at me and knocked me a good 5 feet to my right and on the ground. I landed on my CPAC hard and felt a pain go through my back. The thing kind of sneered at me and turned to me. There was no hole that I could see, but there was blood dripping off the thing. As it stepped toward me I unholstered my 1911. It had been a gift from my grandpa that he carried with him when he was in Hungary. I tried to center it on that thing but my arms felt heavy as fuck and I couldn't really move that well. Suddenly the damn beast stopped moving at me and looked over me. It just kind of stood there and stared with its ears perked for what seemed like hours but was probably 30 seconds. Then I noticed it too. It was the sound of an old truck driving down the highway. I thought to myself how sad it is that I was gonna die right here a couple hundred feet from help. Then I heard a noise behind me so I turned back but it was just bright white. When I turned back to the beast it looked at me, took a step at me, and remembering the good old 1911 I took a shot at the motherfucker. It then just kind of suddenly turned around and ran, or hobbled if you would, away. I just kind of sat there and passed out. When I woke up it was 1830 about and past dark. I got up and felt pain all over. I got up, grabbed my rifle and hobbled back to the shack. When I got there J and S were both just looking at me. After about 30 seconds they asked where the hell I've been and why I didn't answer my phone. I just looked at them and told them we needed to leave now and never come back. They looked at me confused and said they already had the truck packed and were just waiting for me to get back and that we were going to JS house for Thanksgiving that night anyways. After that I never went back, but I ended up going to the hospital for my wounds. Broke 3 ribs and had a concussion. Tried digging into what I saw but never found an answer. I was always confused what it was that ran and what was behind me. I figured the glare off the snow impeded my vision and someone else spooked it off. Just a little more. I still had some questions like why, if it was a person, did they not help me? Then one day about a month ago I realized something. There wasn't a highway for miles. The only road to the shack and abandoned ranch was a gravel road part there by the old ranch owner. I also realized what day it was when it happened. November 21st, the day my dad died 11 years ago. Now I don't know what scared that thing off, but I do know that it was my dad's death date. He used to drive an old F-150 with a broken muffler. My dad was an outdoorsman and actually went out to his favorite spot in the woods behind his house right after took all the pills and just sat there and died. And whatever it was scarred enough to leave fresh meat alone. I know what I think happened, but it's probably a fool's dream in hellish world. Well, I have a story from when I was about 14 years old. I'm in my 30s now, so I can't say every line is perfectly accurate, but you'll get it. Also, all names are fake. Don't be mad. Be me. Be obsessed with outdoorsy shit. Be in Cub Scouts as a young boy and currently in Boy Scouts. Want to be an Eagle Scout so fucking badly. I knew every goddamn knot in the book. One week a bunch of us go camping into some woods in bumfuck Indiana. As Boy Scouts tend to fucking do. We're a troop of 12 kids. One of the kids' dad was our scout leader. He was there too. So we set up our tents probably about a mile into the woods. And we just fuck around all day the first day. Me and 2 kids go out on a secret mission to see if we could find the river. We'll call the kids Steve and Logan. So we're just walking along the path when Logan decides he wants to fucking race us. He bolts ahead and we chase after him. He looks right and comes to a complete stop. Just staring at something in the trees. We get up to him and look. There's a fucking deer smashed against a boulder. This thing looks like it got hit by a semi. We go up to look at it but immediately turn away due to the smell. It's starting to get kinda dark. We're not supposed to leave the group. We run back to the campsite as fast as our little feet can carry us. Stay up for hours talking about the deer to the other kids. Next morning was canoe day. We all walked down the same path the 3 of us went down yesterday. I try to see the deer as soon as we reach that part of the trail. It's gone. Not the deer itself. The fucking boulder was missing. This thing was the size of a goddamn minivan. And something moved it away. Silently freak the fuck out and keep walking. Get down to the building with all the water gear in it. Scout leader counts how many of us there are in order to get the right amount of canoes. He gets out 5 3-seater canoes. We all get in and one of the kids rides with him to break the odd number of scouts up. Get back on dry land and begin walk back to campsite. Talk about the canoeing shit on the way back. Logan, Steve and I were in one of the first boats to leave. So we start asking everyone who they were with. Most of the kids are able to say who they canoed with. And of course the scout leader's son went with him. Wait. Trent and Bill can't figure out who was with them. They swear there was a 3rd guy in their boat. I do a quick head count. Hold the fucking phone. JPEG. There's 12 kids. 1 scout leader. He got out 5 3-seater boats. And we had 1 too many kids, so 1 had to ride with him. That means there was an extra scout. Someone else was in the canoe with Trent and Bill. Get back to camp. Nobody believes Trent or Bill. They refuse to. I speak up and explain the math problem. Everyone gets quiet. Scout leader tries to regain control. Alright. Tonight, we all sleep in the mess hall. We gather all of our shit and bring it inside the dining area. Some kids are so freaked out they sleep underneath the tables. Most don't sleep at all. I stayed up all night looking out the window, watching and waiting for someone to sneak up on us. Eventually pass out from pure exhaustion and get like 20 minutes sleep before it's time to get up. Scout leader tells us what happened yesterday was one of the boats must have been a two-seater on accident and we were just confused. Says not to worry and we'll all be fine. Nobody believes him. But we pretend like we do to keep from shitting ourselves. Go about the day's normal activities without anything too crazy happening. That night we light a fire outside and start telling scary stories. Spend all night out by the campfire just having a chill time. We all scoot our tents in closer to the fire and just kinda enjoy the night. I think the fire made us feel safe. Which was an unfounded and dumb thing to feel. Because of fucking course we weren't, what the fuck. Oh. Drank too much lemonade. Tell Scoutmaster I have to pee. He gives me the key to the mess hall. I go inside and relieve myself. Logan and 2 other kids come inside after me and grab some bread to make toast with. Come back to the fire after locking the building up. Begin consuming burnt bready goods. We're moving through bread fairly quickly. Say to Logan. Didn't you guys all grab a loaf? He says yeah and reaches for the third one. It's not there. He starts flipping shit over looking for it. Asks who the fuck just took the last loaf of bread. Nobody has it. I ask him. Who all went in with you? He says well it was George and, George who was with us? George gets real fucking quiet and suddenly a wave of fear washes over him. He starts fucking panicking. Somebody snuck in and stole a bread loaf right along with them. Some person who was dressed like a scout. That was the final straw for our scout leader. Decides to cut the trip short. Next morning we all go to the van to leave. A few kids run independent head counts to ensure it's just 12 of us. We're all here. No more. No less. We all pile into the van and get the fuck out of Dodge. Get home and tell my mom we cut it short because there was a bear that stole some food from a tent. Too dangerous to stay. She bought it. About 2 hours later my mom comes in my room and asks me. Steve's parents want to know if he went straight home or did he go anywhere else after getting out of the van. Think about it. I didn't see Steve get out of the van. Come to think of it. I don't remember sitting next to Steve. Did Steve even get in the fucking van? We counted 12 scouts. There were 12 of us. He had to be there. Wait. Holy fucking shit. Tiff. Mom calls scout leader. Tells him what we think happened. He drives back to the camp. Finds Steve barricaded in the mess hall. He took off for one final piss break. And we left without him. There was someone in the fucking van with us. Some other kid that nobody noticed. And like 3 people did head counts. Nobody fucking noticed the stranger. Whoever this fucker is, he's in the city now. Talked to Steve a few days later. He says he heard growling outside the doors. Like there was a pack of dogs trying to speak English. Tell him he sounds crazy and say I don't believe him. But I fucking believe him. I never had any other troubles with whoever it was. Must have fucked off back to the woods or moved deeper into the city.